don't become a low-value man in one dramatic fall. There is no single moment where your life collapses and you suddenly transform into someone you don't recognize. It happens slowly, quietly, in the small decisions you let slide, in the standards you stop defending, in the promises you make to yourself and break. Decline is subtle, decay is silent, and most men only wake up when the consequences become impossible to ignore. Low value has nothing to do with money, height, genetics, or social status. A man becomes low value when he loses command over himself, when comfort becomes his compass, when excuses become his language, when he drifts so far from discipline that he no longer trusts his own reflection. You can hide from the world, you can lie to your friends, but you cannot hide from your habits. Your habits expose what you truly are. Today, I'm giving you the 7 signs you're slipping into low-value territory, or that you're already there, and exactly how to stop the downward pull before it destroys the man you were meant to become. Watch until the end, because the final one is the reason most men die average. Let's begin. 1. You lack self-control, the root of every downfall. Every collapse, every failure, every unravelling begins with the same thing: a man who cannot govern himself. You want success, but you can't control your impulses. You talk about discipline, but you fold at the slightest temptation. You speak about purpose, but chase distraction like it owes you salvation. Self-control is the border between men who build and men who beg. It never starts with something catastrophic. It begins small. Just one more scroll. Just one more drink. Just one more night off. Just one more time. 1 more becomes 10 more. 10 more becomes routine. And routine becomes identity. You do not simply fall, you erode. Every time you choose pleasure over purpose, you train your mind to obey weakness. Every time you surrender to impulse, you teach yourself that discipline is optional. And once self-control goes, everything else follows. You cannot lead a life you cannot control. You cannot build a future when your mind is controlled by a screen, a craving, or a desire for comfort. A high-value man sets limits, not because he's strict, but because he respects himself. He restricts what he consumes, who he listens to, and which temptations he entertains. He protects his internal world from external poison. Ask yourself honestly, are you in control of your habits, or are your habits in control of you? Because the man who can't rule himself will eventually be ruled by everything around him, and this leads directly into the next sign. 2. You think you already know everything, the ego that blinds you. A man stops growing the moment he believes he has nothing left to learn. Nothing destroys potential more quietly than arrogance disguised as confidence. Low-value men think, experience equals mastery. They speak loudly, argue endlessly, and resist correction, not because they're wise, but because they're fragile. The insecure cling to their opinions because letting go means admitting they don't know, and most men would rather defend their limitations than outgrow them. You can recognize this easily. They interrupt more than they listen. They protect their mistakes instead of correcting them. They treat advice as an attack. They mistake pride for strength. The tragedy is simple. A man who never listens eventually becomes a man with nothing worth saying. High-value men are the opposite. They stay curious. They question their assumptions. They admit when they're wrong. They actively seek out people wiser than they are. The strong look for truth. The weak look for validation. Ask yourself, when someone challenges your beliefs, do you expand or defend? When someone gives you feedback, do you improve or react? Because the man who stops learning has already stopped leading. And once you stop growing, you begin chasing the wrong things to fill the emptiness inside. 3. You chase pleasure instead of discipline, the silent destroyer. Pleasure feels good in the moment, but it empties you the second it ends. Discipline feels hard in the moment, but it fills you long after it's done. Low-value men confuse relief with fulfillment. They confuse distraction with happiness. They confuse stimulation with satisfaction. You say you're enjoying life, but you're escaping it. Most men drink to forget, smoke to feel calm, scroll to avoid thinking, chase women to feel wanted, sleep late to avoid responsibility. And every one of these choices feels harmless until you realize you've lost years doing the same things, with the same people, in the same places, going nowhere. Pleasure is momentary. Discipline is transformative. Men who chase pleasure stagnate. Men who embrace discipline evolve. Comfort becomes a cage. Discipline becomes a staircase. Every man must choose his suffering. You can suffer the temporary pain of discipline today, or the permanent pain of regret tomorrow. And when a man is drowning in pleasure long enough, something else happens. He starts blaming the world for the consequences he created. 4. You complain and avoid responsibility, the language of weakness. Nothing collapses a man's power faster than chronic complaining. Low-value men talk endlessly about what's wrong, but never about what they're doing to make it right. They blame the government, their parents, their job, their ex, their past, their circumstances. Everyone except the one person responsible for their life, themselves. Complaining is emotional surrender. It's telling the world, I have no control. Life owns me. I'm powerless. A strong man never does this. He doesn't waste breath explaining why life is unfair. He uses that energy to sharpen himself. He takes responsibility even for things he didn't cause, because responsibility grants control. Control grants confidence, and confidence builds value. Weak men cry about what life took from them. Strong men adapt, rebuild, and rise again. The moment you choose responsibility, you reclaim your power. But most men never reach that point. Instead, they turn their frustration outward and start judging everyone else. 5. You spend your energy criticizing others. Projection of insecurity. A man who constantly criticizes others is a man terrified of examining himself. Low-value men live in comparison. They gossip. They mock. They nitpick. They tear others down as a distraction from their own lack of progress. Criticism becomes their comfort, because focusing on others keeps them from addressing the emptiness inside. But here's the truth. When you're busy building your life, you don't have time to judge anyone else's. High-value men don't ridicule. They analyze. They observe people's failures to learn, not to laugh. They observe people's success to understand, not to envy. You can tell where a man is in life by how he speaks about others. Weak men talk about people. Strong men talk about ideas. Disciplined men talk about goals. The things you choose to criticize often reveal what you have failed to become. Ask yourself, what is lacking within me that makes tearing others down feel easier than improving myself? And this brings us to one of the most important signs, because who you surround yourself with determines whether you rise or rot. 6. Your circle is weak, and it's pulling you down. Show me your circle, and I will show you your future with terrifying accuracy. You cannot outgrow a low-value environment. It will always drag you back. Low-value men surround themselves with people who think small, avoid discipline, live for pleasure, reject accountability, have no goals beyond the weekend. Why? Because being around people who never challenge you allows your weakness to remain hidden. Comfort feels like loyalty. Stagnation feels like friendship. Familiarity feels like connection. But here's the brutal truth. You become the average of the energy you surround yourself with. If your friends waste time, you will waste time. If they lack ambition, your goals will evaporate. If they mock discipline, you will abandon yours. A high-value man curates his circle intentionally. He surrounds himself with men who are sharper, wiser, more driven, and more disciplined than he is. Men who force him to level up. Men who challenge him, correct him, and sharpen him. Because iron sharpens iron, not comfort. Ask yourself, are the men around you raising your standards or lowering them? Do they inspire growth or encourage decay? Do they challenge excuses or reinforce them? You cannot rise in a circle that refuses to climb, and that leads us to the final and most dangerous sign. 7. You are addicted to comfort, the death of ambition. This is where most men lose everything, not in crisis, not in failure, but in comfort. Comfort is the quiet assassin of potential. A man gets a stable job, a little attention, a small win, and he stops pushing, he stops growing, he stops striving. Comfort whispers, "You're doing enough." Take it easy, relax, and slowly, silently, year by year, he becomes unrecognizable to the man he once wanted to be. Comfort kills ambition without pain, without warning, without drama. You only notice it once the damage is done. High-value men know that comfort is a trap dressed as peace. They seek challenge, they embrace pressure, they chase growth like their life depends on it, because it does. Ask yourself, when was the last time you did something that genuinely scared you? When was the last time you pushed beyond your limits? When was the last time you chose discomfort on purpose? If you can't remember, you've already begun to decline. The man who chooses comfort today chooses regret tomorrow. How to reclaim your value. The reset. Every man has low-value habits. That's not the problem. The danger is refusing to recognize them. Self-awareness is the birthplace of transformation. You cannot correct what you won't confront. Becoming a high-value man isn't about perfection. It's about intention. It's about refusing to drift. It's about taking back command of yourself one decision at a time. Here's how you rebuild. Cut the habits that weaken you. Strengthen the habits that shape you. Protect your time like a fortress. Honor your word, especially to yourself. Choose discomfort when necessary. Choose discipline when convenient. Choose responsibility always. Your value isn't measured by wealth, women, or status. Those are results. Your value is measured by your level of self-command. If you want a different life, stop negotiating with your weakness. You get one chance at this. One life. One shot. Don't spend it becoming a man you're ashamed of. Don't waste it drifting into mediocrity. Rise now. Reclaim your edge. Rebuild the fire inside you. Become a man who can look in the mirror and say, "I didn't waste my life being average.